Before we talk about politics, before we talk about policy, I want to start this episode by honoring those who have been lost in Texas. People have been trapped on rooftops, entire neighborhoods are washed out, schools are closed, shelters are overwhelmed. This isn't a once-in-a-lifetime event anymore. In Texas, it's becoming a recurring nightmare. Many have lost their lives and dozens are still missing, including young girls from Camp Mystique in Kerr County. Families have been ripped apart, communities devastated, and all across the state, people are still waiting for word, still hoping, still praying. To those who've lost everything, to the first responders risking their lives, and to every family holding on in the middle of this devastation, your grief is real. Your pain is seen, and your stories deserve to be remembered. We don't start this conversation without first recognizing that this is very much a human tragedy, first and foremost. But if we're going to honor those lives, we also have to speak truth. This wasn't just a storm. This was a failure of leadership, a failure of preparedness, and a failure of accountability. This moment demands more than thoughts and prayers. It demands accountability. It demands action. But let's call this what it is, a preventable disaster. I'm Hendrell Remus, and this is Politics Unfiltered. Let me be clear. This flood didn't begin when the rain started falling. It began months, even years ago, with decisions made in offices in Austin and in Washington. Decisions to slash budgets, decisions to silence scientists, decisions to dismantle the very systems that were built to protect us, the very system that was built to protect the people in Texas. And now we're watching the consequences play out in real time. Lives lost, homes destroyed, warnings missed, and the people who are supposed to be responsible, they're dodging blame while families plan to bury their loved ones. Let's start with NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Earlier this year, the Trump administration slashed NOAA's funding so deep, it gutted the Office of Oceanic and Atmospheric Research by nearly 74%. That's over 850 employees that were laid off. The balloon launch stations across the Gulf, critical for tracking storm systems and atmospheric pressure, they were shut down. Climate labs went dark, forecasting models stalled out. And why? Why? Because President Trump said it made the government leaner and more efficient. Let me tell you something. There's nothing efficient about letting a Category 5 rainstorm sneak up on an entire state because we didn't have enough data to forecast it properly. Nothing efficient about watching a river rise 26 feet in under an hour while people are still at home, still on the roads, still asleep. This wasn't just a forecasting error, folks. This was a forecasting sabotage by design. And it didn't stop there. The National Weather Services, the people who send out watches, warnings, and real-time alerts, was operating at 20 to 30% below full staff. That's because they couldn't retain meteorologists or launch new tools with the budget they had been left with. Offices were empty, systems outdated, and the most powerful weather technology in the country crippled. That's what happened in Texas. Now let's talk about FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Under President Trump's second term, FEMA has lost more than 2,000 employees. Disaster mitigation programs are gone, the ones that were designed to strengthen infrastructure. They were designed to reinforce flood zones. They were designed to speed up response times. They have been either canceled or underfunded. And let me remind you, it was President Trump who floated the idea of phasing out FEMA altogether. So when the floods came, there was no early warning, no bag up, no mass deployment of pre-positioned resources, because those resources had been stripped. The agency had been hollowed out. And what did President Trump say? Well, he praised the number of lives saved. He said, he was heartbroken. But what he didn't say was that the cuts he championed helped create the conditions for this tragedy. He didn't say that the very programs and people who could have prevented this, he fired, defunded, or even ignored. And where was Texas Governor Greg Abbott? Nowhere. As this storm formed over the state, his office was focused on culture wars and social media posts. They issued a day of prayer proclamation, but delayed full emergency declarations until it was already too late for many communities. Ask the families in Kerr County if prayer alone was enough when the Guadalupe River rose 29 feet in less than an hour. Ask the campers at Mystique if they felt protected when the water hit and there were no sirens, no warnings, no evacuations. This wasn't just a communication failure, folks. It was a betrayal of public trust, from the governor's mansion to the White House. And here's the part that should make your blood boil. Experts warned us this would happen. They warned us this would happen. They warned that cutting NOAA's balloon systems would weaken our ability to track storms. They warned us that gutting FEMA would slow our response to floods and fires. They warned the president that climate change would increase the severity of rainfall and storm intensity. And they were ignored. Why? Why? If you're listening to this podcast, you should be asking the question, why were they ignored? Because climate denial has become political currency, plain and simple. Because efficiency has become code for strip it down and let it rot. Because science was seen as an obstacle, not a tool. And now families are planning funerals. Entire communities are displaced, and we're supposed to pretend it's just a bad coincidence. No, absolutely not. We will not. Let's say this out loud. Texas didn't flood just because it rained. Texas flooded because we were left unprotected by the very leaders who swore to defend it. It's not just about Trump or Abbott. It's about a pattern, a system where political ambition trumps public safety, where government is treated like a game and people are treated like collateral damage. But here's the thing. We can't rebuild lives. We can't bring back the children who were lost. But we can make damn sure this doesn't happen again. So what do? We need to fully fund NOAA, bring back the staff, reopen the labs, rebuild the forecasting systems. We need to restore FEMA, not just for response, but for resilience, so cities and towns can prepare before the next storm hits. We need to invest in infrastructure, flood barriers, smart drainage, green space, not just in rich neighborhoods, but in rural areas, in working class towns, in Black and brown communities, the ones that always get left behind. Folks, we need to stop pretending that climate change is a debate. It's a reality. The Gulf is warming, storms are intensifying. If we don't act, we're going to keep burying our neighbors after every rainfall. Plain and simple. And most of all, we need to hold leaders accountable. We need to name names. We need to remember who stripped the lifeboats off this ship before the flood came. If you're listening to this podcast, to every Texan hurting right now, I see you. I mourn with you. And I promise there are millions of us ready to fight like hell to make sure this never happens again. Because if we don't speak up now, we'll be right back here in another year, another storm, with more names to read, with more lives to bury, and more silence from the people who let it happen. But not this time. The waters rose, and now what? So will we. I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit me up on social media at Hendrell Remus, and let's keep this conversation unfiltered. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, truth matters, people matter, and silence is never neutral. Until next time, stay informed, stay critical, and never stop asking the hard questions. This is Politics Unfiltered, and I'm out.